Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at, well, a pretty huge question, isn't it? What kind of mind dares to build electric cars, send actual rockets to space, and talk seriously about colonizing Mars sometimes, like all at the same time? We're diving deep into Elon Musk, not just the billionaire headlines, but trying to understand the man, the symbol, really, of just relentless ambition, extreme risk-taking, and this unshakable vision. Our mission today. Let's try and decode how he thinks, maybe why he succeeds where others wouldn't even try, and importantly, what you listening might take away from someone who genuinely wants to change, well, everything. Because the thing that really hits you is how radically differently he seems to approach. Well, almost anything. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is we're going to try and peel back the layers.
Yeah.
We'll look at the foundational elements of his approach.
Yeah.
Because it's not just random successes. There are these consistent principles that let him jump into such different, incredibly tough fields. Software, rockets, cars. It's quite the range. All with that same almost audacious ambition.
And to really get him, we probably need to go back, right? Back to the start. Elon Reeve Musk, born 1971, Pretoria, South Africa. The sources we looked at, they paint a picture of, well, a pretty tough childhood. Wasn't exactly Mr. Popular. Faced some really brutal bullying. I think he was even hospitalized once.
That's right. And it wasn't just the bullying itself, but how he seemed to react to it, almost finding refuge, maybe even power, in just learning, devouring information. Famously taught himself coding, basic, I think, around age 10. By 12, he'd built and sold a video game called Blastar. He's often quoted saying something like, I was raised by books, and then my parents, just reading constantly. Sci-fi, physics, engineering manuals, you name it. That early drive, that sort of self-reliance and intense hunger for knowledge, that really becomes a pattern, doesn't it?
But it wasn't just what he read, it was how he processed it. We found this idea cropping up again and again. First principles thinking became his superpower.
Exactly. That's crucial.
This idea of stripping problems right down to their absolute fundamental truths, challenging every single assumption, and then building up a solution from scratch. Think about rockets, for instance. The aerospace industry basically assumed forever that rockets were disposable. Expensive, but disposable.
Right. That was just the accepted wisdom.
But he broke it down. He asked, okay, what are rockets actually made of? Aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, carbon fiber. What's the cost of those raw materials on the commodity market? And it turned out the material cost was like only 2% of the typical price of a rocket. So the real cost wasn't the materials, it was the complex manufacturing, the throwing it away part. That simple but really radical question, what are the fundamental costs? That's what basically unlocked the whole idea behind SpaceX's reusable rockets.
And that is so critical to understanding everything that came later. He wasn't just collecting facts. He was developing a method, a way to learn anything, and, more importantly, a way to question everything. So, at 17, he leaves South Africa. On his own. Almost no money. Why? Because he believed America was, the place where you could make big things happen.
Yeah.
That was a huge bet on yourself moment, wasn't it? Long before he actually had millions to bet.
Yeah, definitely. He ends up studying physics and economics at Penn, University of Pennsylvania, but clearly wasn't aiming for a typical corporate path or anything. He wanted to do something big. And this is the mid-90s, right? The internet is just exploding. He sees that wave, starts his first company, Zip2, kind of like an online city guide for newspapers, sells it, makes millions, what was it, $307 million?
Something like that, yeah. Then came X.com, an online bank, ambitious stuff. That eventually merges and becomes PayPal.
Right, PayPal. And when eBay buys PayPal, Musk walks away with, close to $180 million personally. Now, most people would take that money, buy an island, and, call it a day.
Absolutely. That would be the rational move for 99.9% of people.
But not Elon. And this is where things get really wild, where his path just completely diverges. He takes basically that entire fortune, everything, and plows it into three areas that most experts considered absolute suicide for a startup: space, energy, transportation. Let's start with SpaceX. He puts in $100 million of his own money. Our sources are clear. Everyone, literally everyone, NASA veterans, aerospace engineers, investors, they all thought he was insane. It would fail.
They really did. Private spaceflight at that scale, unheard of. Rockets were government business, hugely expensive, complex, incredibly risky. Just not something a private company, especially a new one, did.
But he wasn't deterred, was he? What was driving him there?
Well, what's fascinating here is his conviction. Two core beliefs seem to drive him. One, humanity has to become multiplanetary to survive long-term, avoid extinction risk, basically. And two, Rockets didn't have to be disposable. That was just an assumption that needed breaking. They could be reused, drastically cutting costs. And how did he learn rocket science? Not by going back to school. He inhaled textbooks, cornered experts, asked endless questions, and crucially, wasn't afraid to try and fail. Rapidly.
Oh, and the failing part.
Wow.
Those early SpaceX launches, first one fails, second one fails, third one fails, catastrophic.
Utter disaster. Each time, money just burning up on the launch pad or in the atmosphere.
NASA was apparently mocking him behind the scenes. The press was brutal, calling him a con man, a dreamer burning through cash. By the fourth launch attempt, they literally had parts for just one more rocket. If that one failed, SpaceX was done. Finished.
The pressure must have been immense. Everything on the line.
But it didn't fail. That fourth Falcon 1 launch, it reached orbit September 2008. It fundamentally changed the game. And then, the real twist. NASA, the agency that had been so skeptical, awards SpaceX a massive $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. Suddenly, SpaceX wasn't just a dream, it was very, very real.
Incredible turnaround. But meanwhile, his other huge bet, Tesla, the electric car company, that was also teetering on the brink, bleeding cash.
Right. People forget they were happening at roughly the same time. Both almost died in 2008. People openly laughed at Tesla. Viable electric cars? Seriously, dealerships didn't want them. The established auto giants basically ignored or mocked them.
But again, it comes back to that mission focus. Elon seemed completely obsessed. He's got that famous quote, right? If something is important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure.
Tesla did almost die. Several times, apparently. He had to pour more and more of his own dwindling fortune into it just to make payroll. There are stories of him literally sleeping on the factory floor during the Model 3 production hell, trying to personally fix manufacturing bottlenecks. It's a level of, dedication, obsession, that's just hard to fathom.
It raises that question, doesn't it? Is it just pure grit and tenacity? Or is it something else, like a genuine inability to even conceive of ultimate failure when the mission is big enough?
Whatever it is, look where we are now. Tesla is, well, depending on the day, worth hundreds of billions. It forced the entire auto industry to go electric. And SpaceX launches more rockets than most countries, lands them routinely, flies astronauts for NASA. It's staggering.
And what stands out here is that his vision didn't just stop with cars and rockets, right? Once those started to stabilize somewhat.
Yeah, he kept going, tackling these other huge problems he saw, like sustainable energy. That led to him pushing hard on SolarCity, the solar panel company run by his cousins, and integrating it with Tesla, plus developing the Powerwall, the home battery system. It's all part of that sustainable energy ecosystem vision.
Right, seeing the bigger picture, generation, storage, consumption.
And then traffic. Just the sheer frustration of LA traffic apparently sparked the Boring Company, digging tunnels for high-speed underground transport. Still early days, maybe, but again, attacking a common frustration from a totally different angle.
Yeah, another first principles approach.
Right.
Why go up or stay level when you can go down?
And his concerns about AI, artificial intelligence, the potential risks if it becomes super intelligent and isn't aligned with human values. That led him to co-found OpenAI, initially trying to create safe, beneficial AI, and later Neuralink, the brain-computer interface company. Which sounds like pure science fiction, but the goal is partly about potentially enabling humans to keep pace with AI and also tackling serious brain and spinal injuries.
These aren't just random projects. If you step back and connect the dots, like you said, it reveals this mind that's constantly scanning the horizon for fundamental threats or bottlenecks for humanity's future, and then applying that same toolkit. First principles thinking, aiming for a 10x improvement, not just incremental gains, and just relentless execution, regardless of how impossible it seems to others.
So, okay, what is it then? What makes Elon Musk Elon Musk? It's clearly not just being smart, though he obviously is. It's not just luck, though timing helps. The sources we reviewed, they really point towards this powerful, maybe volatile combination. Huge vision plus absolutely relentless execution plus a kind of brutal honesty, maybe. He doesn't seem to care that much about being liked. He cares about solving the problem, his definition of the biggest problems: climate change, extinction risk, energy, transport.
And the work ethic is legendary, or infamous, depending on who you ask. 80, 100, even 120-hour weeks. Micromanaging down to the smallest details when necessary, pushing teams incredibly hard. Our sources definitely describe environments that can be incredibly demanding, extremely high pressure, intense expectations, people feeling pushed way beyond their limits sometimes.
Yeah, and that's where you get the other side of the story, right? The controversies. For every tale of inspiring leadership, you hear about burnout, high staff turnover, very public spats, sometimes bizarre behavior on Twitter, X now.
Absolutely. He's undeniably polarizing. The question people debate is, does that unconventional style, including the missteps and the, let's say, unfiltered communication, actually make him more effective in shaking things up? Or does it just create unnecessary noise? But regardless of how he does it, the pattern is clear. He doesn't aim for 10% better. He aims for 10 times better. He doesn't ask what's normal. He asks what's physically possible according to the laws of physics. And he genuinely seems to believe the future should be exciting. He says things like, I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. That feels like a core belief, not just rhetoric.
So what does this all mean when we boil it down for you listening? Looking at his journey, the success isn't just being brilliant or catching a lucky break. It really does seem to be that mix, a vision that's almost sci-fi huge, execution that's just relentless, almost inhuman at times, and this brutal honesty about obstacles, maybe even about people. His whole focus is pinned on those massive existential challenges we talked about. Climate change with Tesla and SolarCity, sustainable energy with Powerwall, city traffic with Boring Company, AI risk with OpenAI and Neuralink, and ultimate survival with SpaceX and Mars. He keeps saying the future needs to be inspiring. That line about ordinary people choosing to be extraordinary, it's quite a powerful idea, isn't it?
It really is, and that's the core of it, I think. So if you're listening, what practical things can you maybe take away from this deep dive into Musk's world? First, that think from first principles idea. Seriously, try it. Don't just accept how things are done. Break problems down, question assumptions, rebuild from the ground up.
Okay, first principles. What else?
Second, bet on yourself. Remember him leaving South Africa or risking everything after PayPal. He didn't wait for permission, he moved. Maybe ask yourself, where could you take a calculated risk, even a small one, based on your own conviction?
Calculated risk. Got it.
Third, yeah, it sounds cliche, but work like hell. His quote is famous. Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100-hour weeks every week. If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. The hours matter if the goal is huge.
Work like hell. Okay, number 4.
Number 4, obsess over the mission, purpose over comfort. Your why needs to be incredibly strong, bigger than the inevitable fear and setbacks. Musk clearly has that deep why for his ventures.
Right, the why. And 5th?
5th, learn fast, fail faster. SpaceX's early explosions weren't just failures, they were rapid, expensive lessons. Failure is data. The key is learning from it faster than anyone else.
Learn fast, fail faster. Okay, last one.
And finally, number 6, challenge the impossible. Seriously, reusable rockets landing themselves. Impossible. A startup making electric cars people actually want and beating Detroit. Impossible. Tunnels under cities solving traffic. Impossible. Until someone does it, he consistently took on things deemed impossible.
So 6 key takeaways there.
Exactly. And look, let's be clear. Elon Musk is controversial. He makes mistakes, sometimes big public ones. We saw that in the sources. But maybe that's not the most important takeaway from this deep dive. The bigger point is, like him or not, agree with his methods or not, he is actively building a future, his version of it anyway. And the lesson for you isn't that you need billions. It's that maybe you need a bolder vision for yourself or your work, relentless action towards it, and yeah, the courage to think differently than the status quo.
A bold vision, relentless action, courage to think differently.
Yeah, because as the saying goes, the world doesn't just need more dreamers. It needs more doers. People willing to actually build things, to try things, even if they might fail. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Are you ready to rise?